Welcome to our review of the Felony Murder Rule. It is brought to you by LA Law Institute, home of free educational resources. Hi everyone, today we are going to look at the Felony Murder Rule because it tends to be a big testing area in a crimes exam. But before we jump into it, let's review how felony murder fits into the bigger picture. Under the old common law, murder was defined as a homicide committed with malice aforethought. The homicide was the physical act of the murder. The malice was the mental part or guilty mind that must occur simultaneously. In legal terms, the physical part is known as the actus reus and the mental part is called the mens rea. Usually, the physical act is easier to prove than the guilty mind when there is a dead body resulting from the acts of another. While the guilty mind is harder to show, the common law gives us several methods which can be used to demonstrate malice. The guilty mind, or intent, for murder is malice. In a murder case, there are 4 ways to show this. However, only one of these 4 types of intent is required. They are intent to kill, intent to commit great bodily harm, intent to commit a felony or reckless indifference to human life, which is also called a depraved heart. In some instances, the deadly weapon doctrine can be used as a substitute for malice. This would occur when an object is used in a deadly manner. When the death is due to a felony or even an attempted but failed felony, the felony murder rule can be enacted. Under this rule, malice can be implied by the intent to commit a felony. Under common law, when using this rule, only crimes that were listed as felonies were available to use for the rule. The felonies were murder, rape, manslaughter, robbery, sodomy, larceny, arson, mayhem, and burglary. These felonies were collectively known by the memory device Mr. and Mrs. Lamb. It should be noted that there are a few limitations that exist with the use of the felony murder rule. First, the defendant must be guilty of the underlying felony. If they have a valid defense to the felony, they cannot be charged with a murder. Second, the felony must be independent of the killing. If the killing is a direct result of a crime such as an assault or battery, then it will not suffice, since a battery is not distinct from the killing. Third, the death must have been a foreseeable result of the felony. And finally, the death must have occurred before the defendant's flight from the scene and has reached a place of temporary safety. The final limitation is known as the red line rule. Under common law, the red line rule states that the defendant is not responsible for the death of a co-felon that results from the resistance of a victim or the police. This is the majority view on the felony murder rule. There are 2 additional views, the agency and proximate cause, that are minority views. The agency view holds that the defendant is liable for murder only if the murder was committed by an accomplice. Under the proximate cause view, the defendant is liable for the death of an innocent victim if that death was caused by a third party due to the defendant's guilt of creating the situation. In order to remember these limitations, we use the memory device gift wrap. G for guilty of the underlying felony. I for independence of the killing. F for foreseeability. T for temporary safety or being far enough away from the crime that it is no longer considered part of the original actus reus. R is for the red line rule, the A is for agency view, and P is for proximate cause theory. Finally, modern statutes, which have replaced common law in some jurisdictions, have changed which felonies are included in the felony murder rule. These statutes tend to include felonies that are inherently dangerous to human life, such as battery, robbery, or kidnapping. So let's do a quick recap of what we have covered. Common law murder is a homicide committed with malice aforethought. Homicide is the physical act and malice is the guilty mind which must occur at the same time. There are 5 ways you can show malice. 1. Wanton reckless disregard for human life, which is sometimes called a depraved heart. 2. Implementation of the deadly weapon doctrine. 3. Intent to commit great bodily harm. 4. Intent to kill. 5. Intent to commit a felony, but if a death occurs, even accidentally, the felony murder rule may be enacted. If the felony murder rule is enacted, you need to look for these limitations. 1. They must be guilty of the underlying felony. 2. The felony must be independent of the killing. 3. The death must be foreseeable. 4. The death must be during the commission of the crime, not after leaving the scene. If the death is one of the co-felons and is caused by a victim resisting or a police officer, the red line rule will take effect and the felony murder rule will not be allowed. Agency and proximate are the minority rules. Thank you for watching. We hope this helps in your studying.